I never meant to trigger an alien bonding ritual, especially not by scratching behind her ear. Now her markings won't stop glowing. The strange device in our apartment keeps urging us toward a final phase. And her entire species suddenly believes I'm her chosen partner. I'm trapped between a ritual I don't understand, feelings I'm afraid to admit, and an alien woman whose touch could unravel everything, or fix something I didn't know was broken. All I know is this: something is coming. Something intimate, dangerous, and impossible to walk away from. Asterisk, he purred when I scratched behind his ears. Apparently that's very intimate for his kind. I muttered to the empty kitchen, because the cat poster on the fridge deserved the story, and because Mira, my alien roommate, had taught me not to bottleneck anecdotes for strangers. Myra would have rolled her eyes if she could roll them the way humans did. Instead, the bioluminescent ridges at the base of her skull flickered amber, a human shrug translated into light. She was not a cat. She was a Queralin, which, in our buildings, cramped glossary of oddities, translated roughly to graceful predator with questionable notions about personal space. She had luminous tattoos, actual living pigment that shimmered along the planes of her skin, like constellations when she moved, and hair that refused to stay a single color for more than an hour. This morning, it had decided on electric teal. Her eyes caught light in a way that made you think someone had put a tiny moon behind her pupils. She smelled faintly of ion-charged rain and jasmine, which shouldn't have been possible. But then again, most of Myra's physiology made a liar out of should. I liked living with Mira because she was efficient, annoyingly honest, and because she made the best midnight noodles in 3 systems. I also liked living with Mira because she was, without intending to be, dangerously endearing. She had a way of taking up space in my heart without asking permission, a slow gravitational pull that was more like a tide than a trombone fanfare. I was unavoidably in orbit. That morning had started with a prank, or an experiment. Myra liked experiments. She believed in cataloging human responses to domestic oddities for reasons that involved cross-cultural anthropology and a fund she called the Curiosity Kitty. The kitty was small, metallic, and would blink at you with a single LED if you scraped a plate too aggressively. She'd been in an unusually mischievous mood, teal hair, oscillating like a small aurora, ridges on her neck pulsing a delighted violet. She announced, with the precise bluntness that made half my brain melt and the other half file formal complaints, that she had a question about human intimacy. Are scratches behind the ear considered private contact between partners, or is it acceptable in communal contexts? She asked, voice a calm, slightly musical baritone. I shrugged with the confidence of a man who had watched one rom-com in college. Depends on intent. If you're consoling a friend, fine. If you're trying to seduce them, maybe don't announce it by scraping your teeth. She did not understand the metaphor. She never did. Literalness was one of her charms and also one of the reasons I could steal her noodles when she wasn't looking. The human face contains concentrated nerve clusters, she said, tapping my jaw. I have observed several primates react positively to periorbital contact. This aligns with comfort in interspecies displays. That's not taxonomically wrong, I said. But you sound like you're giving a TED talk on affection. She flared a singular laugh, part exhale, part hum, and that vibration traveled up through the apartment floorboards. This will be a field test. She picked up her tea, sat on the arm of the couch like she owned our public couch rights, a position she, in fact, had staked, and regarded me with all the earnestness of someone who just decided to solve a problem, using my anatomy as a lab bench. I should have seen the signs. I really should have. Her species had all sorts of interesting reactions to touch. A patch of darkening scales meant curiosity. A downbeat trill meant excitement. And a full-body glow meant, well, it meant different things in different contexts. I blamed my own optimism and the way her jawline caught the light. Field test? I asked, cautious and intrigued. Yes, permission to perform a socially innocuous stimulus. Scratch behind the ear. She extended a hand toward my temple, an invitation that was so casual it made my palms sweat. There are moments in life when you are asked to do something harmless, and for reasons that future you will mock, you accept. I leaned forward, because Myra's hand in mine felt like a dare, and because my curiosity had been primed by a species that fermented emotion like fine wine. My fingers found the spot behind her ear, an expanse of soft, warm skin interrupted by those luminous markings that seemed to respond to touch like an oscilloscope responding to music. I scratched. One deliberate stroke, nothing more complicated than the kind of absent gesture people make when they're thinking. That should have been the end of it. Instead, she inhaled a sound I would later catalog as prelude, and the apartment filled with the quiet, expectant hum of her ribcage. Her markings leapt from teal to liquid gold, trailing along her neck in a slow, delicious shimmer that ought to have been illegal. Her body leaned into my fingers as if gravity had spoken a private law I had foolishly agreed to enforce. Warmth unfurled under my palm like summer through silk. She purred. I mean, words fail, but there was a purr. It was low and vibrating in her throat, like a cello being tuned. Not a human purr, something deeper, resonant, and entirely unashamed. I froze because 1, you do not invent new sounds without consulting a manual, and 2, she had just purred in a way that implied the scratch had crossed an unspoken line. Her eyes closed. A filament of light traced from the corner of one pupil toward the temple. I could feel the air change. It had always been the small things heard before dawn breathing, the way she hummed when she concentrated, that tipped me off to her moods. This was different. There was a low, rhythmic thudding at the base of her skull. A scent bloomed, not obnoxious, but intimate in the way jasmine gets intimate after midnight. It was warm, mineral sweet, and it made my skin want to crawl closer. Myra, I whispered, because apparently whispering was now my preferred mode of communication with people who could change color. Her eyes opened, and she looked at me. Not with the clinical curiosity she usually afforded my misguided human behaviors, but with a certain startled, flush-haloed vulnerability. That was anomalous, she said, the violet at her collarbones pulsing in quick staccato. I did not expect a purr. My notes, she broke off, the practical part of her brain fumbling with a social crisis. My physiology indicates a mating-linked triggering of serotonin analogs and reward loops in response to targeted dermal friction in cranial zones. That is awkward. Awkward is one way to put it, I said, trying for nonchalance and landing somewhere between sheepish and fascinated. Are you okay? She looked down at her hands, which were trembling with a slowness that suggested more than nervousness. The glow along her collarbone was now a steady, hot ember. A faint heat radiated from her like a space heater on low, and the apartment's thermostat suddenly felt inadequate. If left unregulated, she said, voice small and strangely hurried, the stimulus will progress into an escalation that could destabilize cortical dampening fields. Translation: I will become more reactive, meaning? My voice sounded like the male lead asking the wrong question in a romantic indie film. Meaning, she said, and the laugh that escaped had a sharp edge now. You are proximate, and I am responding with involuntary pairing signals. Your proximity is influencing my endocrine cascade. It is biological, not romantic in the human sense, but the gestalt. She made a hand motion that, frankly, could have been interpreted as anything between a shrug and a surrender. It is very intimate for my kind. We stared at each other for a long second, like two people who had accidentally activated someone else's fire alarm with a spoon. Then, because practicality had to reassert itself, Mira said bluntly. Physical contact will stabilize. Prolonged skin-to-skin will allow my dampeners to reset. If we maintain contact for, she frowned, hunting for units, 10 minutes, the cascade will abate without further complication. My brain did a somersault. Hold her hand for 10 minutes to prevent an involuntary mating cascade? That sounded like the worst Tinder date ever, and also suspiciously like a romantic comedy premise. You want me to hold you? I asked, trying to make it sound casual. My voice betrayed me by going up at the end like an adolescent. Yes. Her ridges softened into a kind of pleading light. It appears you are the only variable that can modulate my response. I could have argued. I could have proposed a cold shower, a distraction, a dab of something blue. Instead, I did the only reasonable thing available on impulse and charm. I closed the distance. We sat, awkward and perfectly aligned, while her arm found my waist and my hand rested on the small of her back. Her skin under my palm glowed like a living lamp. She exhaled, a sound that felt like wind over glass. For a suspended, ridiculous second, all the practicalities of the universe rent due. Recycling day, the neighbor's cat that judged us fell away. There was a hum, a light, a warmth that melted my nerves into a pliant, delightful puddle. 10 minutes, she had said. 10 minutes felt like a negotiation between two different species of gravity. Then the doorbell rang. It sounded like a polite punctuation mark at first. Then, because Myra's markings flared, and because human timing is often a cosmic prank, the apartment door swung open. The knock was followed by laughter. It belonged to someone who owned the word irreverent. The hallway light spilled in, and the person who filled it was our neighbor, Lana Aria's friend from the adjacent unit. Exactly the sort of human female who wore business suits like armor and smiles like currency. Mira stiffened against me, as if I had turned into something dangerously territorial. Oh, Lana said, all bright curiosity and obliviousness. Hey, you two didn't mean to interrupt. I came by to borrow sugar. But are you guys okay? Myra's color did something I'd never seen, her bioluminescence condensed into a sharp, protective ring at the base of her throat. Her hum changed pitch into something that rattled the windows a fraction. She tightened against me with an intensity that did not belong in apartment diplomacy. I, being human and foolish and fond, had no defense against the sudden spike of jealousy that burned with a warmth not unlike Myra's glow. I realized then that the 10 minutes might not have been the only thing I'd bargained for. Ooh, I said, and the syllable felt inadequate. Come in? Lana stepped forward, smile widening, and the apartment's air stacked itself into a precarious tower of misread intentions. Myra's hand found the back of my neck with a possessive softness that made my pulse skitter. Her markings pulsed in a slow, almost territorial rhythm. This was not how a typical Wednesday went. This was how a chapter cliffhanger began. Myra's voice, when she spoke, was low. This is private, she said then, in that same breath, looked at me and added, and also, you may not leave. Lana blinked. Wow, okay, are you guys bonded now? She laughed, entirely missing the way Mira's glow braided itself into something like feral delight. Because if you are, that is adorable. I felt the air hold like a breath about to be released. And somewhere beneath my ribs, a new kind of hilarity, the kind that lives at the edge of embarrassment and bliss, began to bloom. I had 10 minutes left, give or take. Or perhaps whatever came next required more than timers and good intentions. Myra's lips brushed my neck dot, and then the doorbell rang again. Asterisk. Lana's eyes danced from Myra's pulsing neck ridges to the way my hand sat on the small of Myra's back. And then, fluttering like a distracted moth, she rested on my face. You look flushed, she observed, in the tone of someone diagnosing a houseplant. It's the lighting, I lied immediately, because apparently I had become the worst kind of romantic cliché, the embarrassed lead in my own rom-com. And the spice in the noodles. My brain supplied excuses like a faulty vending machine, each coin worse than the last. Mira's glow tightened into a ribbon of indigo around her throat, defensive, hot, and somehow possessive. She leaned into me, not in a coy way, but like a fortress finding its foundation. Her breath was warm against my ear. The scent of jasmine and ozone wrapped me in a peculiar safety. Her hand, which had been splayed across my ribs, shifted toward my face, an almost protective gesture that made my cheeks go incandescent for reasons that had nothing to do with the central heating. Lana blinked, fully open to the spectacle. Are you two together? Because no judgment if you're dating. That's awesome. Myra, you look stunning. Is that new? What is that? She waved a hand at Myra's luminous markings, like she could wave them off. Myra's response was a slow, appraising hum that I now recognized as her equivalent of clearing her throat. We are roommates, she said, succinct. The light along her clavicle pulsed with a staccato I'd come to learn meant agitation. I suffer a stimulus escalation. How do humans call it social faux pas? There has been a biological misfire. Misfire? Lana repeated, perched on the edge of the couch like a spectator at a tennis match. Myra, are you okay? Do you need medbay? Is this contagious? It is not contagious, Myra said dryly. It is awkward. There was a beat of silence that could have been comfortable if it weren't vibrating with the pheromonal equivalent of a crowded elevator. Lana laughed to fill it. Okay, well, carry on. I didn't actually need sugar. I was using that as an excuse to see if you'd baked anything scandalous. I almost told her. Yes, we had scandalous noodles, but the truth was easier and worse. We were holding each other. Because my unclipped curiosity had accidentally triggered a mating-linked response, and the only safe course of action was to keep skin contact until Myra's dampeners reset. It was the kind of confession that sounded like an invitation to a very niche improv class. Lana, I said, aiming for conversational and landing somewhere between sheepish and conspiratorial. If you'll excuse us, Myras, having a little constitutional oddity. We'll be fine. She looked from me to Myra and back again, and then, mercifully, the social animal that had lived in her longer than politeness made a decision. I'll leave you. To privacy. She gave us the most knowing smile and backed toward the door. Text me if you need sugar, or if you accidentally joined a cult, okay? Will do, I said, and the door closed with a click that sounded like a retracted arrow. The apartment sighed back into its private gravity. When the door shut, Mira exhaled so deeply, the vibration rattled the cutlery in the sink. Her glow spread from indigo to molten honey, a visual that meant, if you were fluent in Queralin semiotics, relief, and something like embarrassment braided together. I am sorry, she said, turning to face me. Up close, her eyes were galaxies I wanted to drown in. I did not intend for Lana to witness this. My species is inconvenient. You're not inconvenient, I said, which was both true and a frictionless bit of flattery. You're unusual, which is fine. More interesting than predictable. My hand found her luminescent wrist and lingered, because it felt honest, and because my fingers wanted excuses to stay where they were. Her skin was warm, and the light under it pulsed rhythmically, like a little sun. The scent of jasmine deepened, threaded now with something sweeter metallic, like rain on a ship's hull. Her heartbeat, I could see the faint strobe of it under her clavicle, picked up a nervous tempo. Those little biological symphonies were becoming increasingly persuasive. You said 10 minutes, I reminded her, trying to wedge time back into the conversation like a stubborn doorstop. Is it how long? Myra's thumb stroked the back of my hand. A motion that would have been innocent on a psychologist's chart and entirely ruinous for a human heart. If the escalation progresses beyond the initial damping window, she said, voice small, a completion ritual will be necessary to properly reset my endocrine balance. Completion ritual? The words tasted both thrilling and alarmingly formal. Yes. She tilted her head, the motion making her hair shimmer in teal waves. It is brief and non-reproductive in nature for anyone outside my species, but it is culturally recognized as an intimate seal. It typically involves mutual exchange of breath and contact along the labial fold, translated loosely as a kiss. My mouth went dry in a way that made me acutely aware of the proximity of Myra's lips. You mean a kiss? Yes, she said. She didn't blush as humans did. Instead, a warm halo spread across the hollows of her cheeks and the base of her throat. A kiss is efficient. It will allow the dampeners to synchronize and terminate the cascade without further escalation. It is logical. There it was, the point where practicality and desire overlapped, and I felt both terrified and absurdly eager. The apartment around us contracted until it felt like we were the only two things in existence that mattered. Okay, I said, which was possibly the most mature thing I'd managed all week. Okay, if it helps, I'm oddly game for culturally sanctioned rituals. She smiled, an expression that was part mischief and part relief. You are more cooperative than most human subjects, she murmured. Then, with a precision that made me laugh despite myself, she leaned in. Air met air in a small electric collision. The first touch of her mouth on mine was like stepping through a threshold of all the things that had only been hinted at until then. The scent of rain and jasmine, the whisper of her breath, the subtle hum that continued under her skin. Her lips were surprisingly soft for a species that looked like they could disembowel a space whale with a glance. The contact was brief, a measured press and release. More a punctuation mark than a proclamation. My head, predictably, decided to narrate the moment in embarrassingly romantic prose. This is it. This is what you've been waiting for. Congratulations, you idiot. Her kiss tasted faintly metallic and like jasmine tea, an impossible combination that somehow made my knees forget their purpose. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. Myra's glow flattened into a steady, cooling blue. The hum that had thrummed like a tuning fork in her chest softened into a normal, private rhythm. The scent that had been so insistently intimate evaporated to a comforting memory. We pulled apart, eyes meeting in that delicious, disorienting moment after contact when the world seems slightly better and also slightly more dangerous. That was efficient, Mira said, wiping one luminescent fingertip across her lip as if she hadn't just performed an interspecies de-escalation ritual in my living room. Efficient, and I started, then trailed off because the word that wanted out was irretrievably mushy. Perfect. Instead, I said, effective. She exhaled a laugh, soft, musical. Yes, I am pleased. The dampeners report normal function. No further escalation should occur. Relief flared through me like a celebratory firework. I felt lighter, as if the tension had been a thick blanket we'd both been forced to wear. Myra's hand found mine again and squeezed, a small, private victory we were both about to savor. The afterglow, the comfortable silence that follows crisis resolution, when my holopad on the table pinned with a notification. The sound sliced into the apartment like a blade. A message flashed across the screen. Delivery confirmed, package arrived for apt 3B. We exchanged a look that was equal parts amusement and dread. Packages this late never contained socks. Myra's markings darkened in a quick, excitable flare. That is, she began, then stopped as realization dawned on her face. Oh? Oh? I echoed. She licked her lips, a tiny, almost embarrassed gesture. Phase 2. Asterisk, Myra said. Phase 2, like someone announcing dessert and a diplomatic incident at the same time. Phase 2 of what? I asked, because apparently I had the survival instincts of a damp paper towel. My holopad chimed again, helpfully reminding me that the mystery package was sitting outside like an omen. Mira's glow tightened into a slender filament along her collarbone's anticipation, mixed with a hint of embarrassment. The pairing protocol, she said carefully. It has levels. Levels, I repeated. Like a video game? Yes, she said, nodding solemnly, except with significantly more cultural consequences. And occasionally snacks. Snacks, I said faintly. Of course. She stood smoothly, hair shimmering its way toward a silver-green gradient, palms pressed together like she was preparing for surgery or a tax audit. The delivery will contain the traditional stabilizing implements. They are mandatory after a completion ritual hour kiss. She blinked at me, all earnestness and extraterrestrial sincerity. We need them, immediately. Stabilizing implements, I echoed. This feels like one of those times I should ask what those are before opening the door. Mira hesitated, an actual visible glitch in her otherwise serenely collected interface. They vary by region, she said. My home province uses contact wraps, a mutual scent disc, and a shared thermal coil. All non-invasive, all very bonding. Bonding, I said, raising an eyebrow. As in? She winced. As in, we temporarily become recognized as a dyadic unit. A what? A pair. My brain went blank. A couple? Her glow flared scarlet, the Queralin, equivalent of a blush so intense it almost qualified as a fireworks display. In practical terms, yes, but only for 7 cycles. After which we submitted the pairing form and resumed standard social affiliations. Asterisk 7 cycles, I repeated. Is that a long time? For Queralin physiology? She shrugged gently. Moderate. For humans, it equates to approximately 4 weeks. 4 weeks. I had eaten cereal that expired sooner, but the idea of being paired with Myra even temporarily did something complicated to my chest. Something warm, thrilling, and absolutely inadvisable. Something that whispered yes before my tongue could catch up. Okay, I said slowly. So you're saying my accidental ear scratching triggered a biological cascade, which required a kiss to fix, which then triggered an entirely separate tradition that now requires us to complete. Whatever phase 2 is? Yes, she said, looking both apologetic and a little luminous with relief that I was following. You understand perfectly. That's concerning, I muttered. She moved toward the door, pausing only when she realized I wasn't following. You must accompany me. The pairing kit recognizes both participants. If you are not present, it may activate incorrectly. That's a lot of pressure to put on a box, I said, standing anyway. When we reached the door, she placed her hand on the panel but didn't open it. Before you see it, she said quietly, know that I did not intend this. You did not choose this ritual. If you wish to refuse pairing, it is permitted. The consequences are minimal, socially awkward, but survivable. And for you? I asked. She looked away, markings flickering uncertainly. More inconvenient. Declining after a completion ritual is unusual. It may mark me as reckless. I let that sit between us for a moment, her vulnerability laid out like an offering, unexpected and fragile. Then I reached out, brushing her wrist gently. Myra, I said softly, I'm not bailing on you. Her eyes widened just enough to betray the spark under her composure. She opened the door, and there it was, a sleek, cylindrical container the size of a hatbox, shimmering with Queralin symbols that pulsed like tiny suns. The lid hissed softly as she picked it up. The moment the box recognized her touch, symbols shifted and a second set glowed to life. My name. Human letters neatly printed. That's really fast, I said. These kits are extremely efficient, she replied, but the slight tremor in her voice betrayed her nerves. Phase 2 initiates upon dual recognition. We must, she inhaled sharply as the box emitted a soft chime. Ah, it has begun. Begun what? I asked, leaning closer. And then the lid irised open. Inside were 3 items arranged with ceremonial precision. A shimmering coil, emitting gentle warmth. 2 soft, silver cloth bands contact wraps. A small crystalline disc that released a faint, sweet scent the moment air touched it. Mira swallowed. The coil must be held between us. The wraps go around our wrists to maintain light contact. And the scent disc must be breathed together for the kit to register mutual synchronization. That sounds, I said carefully, uncomfortably romantic. It is traditionally performed in private chambers, she admitted. Not next to a shoe rack. She reached into the box with practiced gentleness, retrieving one of the wrist wraps. Her fingers brushed mine as she offered it. This is optional, she reminded me, voice barely above a whisper. I slipped the wrap over my wrist. Her glow surged gold, rich and warm, flooding her skin like sunrise. I accept, she murmured, placing her own wrap on. A tremor rippled through the coil as she lifted it, and she stepped close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from her, close enough that her breath stirred the hair near my temple. She placed the coil between us, and we instinctively leaned in until the warmth hummed at our chests. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, neither of us moved. Ready? She whispered. Yeah. I breathed. Together, we lowered our heads toward the scent disc. Our noses were inches apart. Our fingers brushed. The coil pulsed, and the apartment lights flickered as Phase 2 activated. Then a knock sounded at the door behind us. Myra froze. I froze. And a familiar voice rang through the hallway. Hey, it's Lana again. Sorry, did I leave my phone in here? Asterisk. The knock hit us like a sandstorm, loud, unexpected, and profoundly inconvenient. Mira's glow snapped from warm gold to a sharp, territorial crimson. The coil between us pulsed in agitation, and the scent disc fluttered dangerously, close to activating Phase 2's final step. My wrist wrap buzzed faintly, as if the ceremonial fabric itself knew that ritual interruption was highly frowned upon. Do not move, Mira breathed, though her voice shook with a blend of panic and indignation. I'm not the one moving, I whispered back. I'm basically furniture right now. Another knock. Hello? You two okay? I swear I had. My phone in my hand, and then I walked in here, and then I will disintegrate her, Mira hissed. You can't disintegrate neighbors, I whispered. It's in the lease. She looked one heartbreakingly serious moment away from litigating the morality of vaporizing bystanders when the coil between us gave a warning hum, one that made the hairs on the back of my neck rise. Myra, I said urgently, what happens if Phase 2 is interrupted? She closed her eyes. A synchronization error, which means she inhaled through her nose. Prolonged destabilization of the emotional link. Mood bleeding. Heightened pheromone output. Unregulated pairing impulses. A beat. And clinginess. I stared. Clinginess? Extreme clinginess, she corrected grimly. Queralin poets have likened it to 2 moons eternally orbiting in a relational catastrophe. That sounds dramatic. Queralin poetry is extremely dramatic. The door handle, JIGGLED. Flared a brilliant warning yellow. She cannot enter. She's not trying too well. Okay, she is, I said as the handle jiggled. Again, followed by Lana's muffled voice. Hello? Guys, if you're doing something weird again, I can just come back later. Nitrogen monoxide, Mira snapped, loud enough that I felt the sound vibrate through the coil and straight into my sternum. Stay there, Lana froze. Okay? Myra pressed closer to ensure the coil stayed calibrated. Her forehead nearly bumped mine, her breath warm and sweet with the scent disc's influence. My heart stuttered in a rhythm that could generously be called romantically doomed. "Listen," I whispered, "we can't leave her outside forever. She's going to start guessing things." "She already guessed things," Myra muttered darkly. "Incorrect things. Invasive things." "Then we need to handle this fast," I said. Her eyes locked onto mine, luminous, conflicted, and unfairly enchanting. The ritual must continue now, before the coil destabilizes. "How now is now?" I asked, voice dropping despite myself. Myra swallowed. Now. The coil throbbed a low, insistent pulse, and the scent disc released another faint wave of sweetness that curled around us like invisible ribbon. The wraps on our wrists tightened, drawing us closer by a single deliberate inch. "Okay," I whispered, steadying myself. "Let's finish this." We lowered our faces toward the disc, breath mingling, the ritual demanding synchronized inhalation. The room narrowed to just her eyes, bright, nervous, stunning, and the soft hum of alien tech beating like a second heart between us. The disc activated with a gentle chiming sound. Warm light spiraled upward. Myra exhaled shakily. "Inhale with me." I did. A soft energy spread through my chest like a warm tide, threading through my limbs, gentle but impossibly intimate, like someone whispering a secret into your bloodstream. Myra trembled once, then steadied, her glow shifting from anxious red to a deep, wondrous violet. The wraps cooled. The coil dimmed. The ritual settled. Around us like calm after a storm. "Synchronization complete," Myra whispered. "We are paired." Our faces were still inches apart. Neither of us moved. Then, "UHH," Lana called from the hallway. "Can I come in now? Because I feel weird just talking to your door." Myra made a sound I had never heard before. Something between a groan, a hiss, and a play for cosmic mercy. "We have to let her in," I said gently. "No," Myra whispered. "She will see the glow. She will smell the scent disc. She will know. She already thinks we're dating." "This is worse," Myra said, deadly serious. "She will think we are. Soul bonding." The coil in her hand sputtered softly, as if agreeing. I squeezed her wrapped wrist. "It's fine. We'll explain." "You say that," Myra muttered, "but I have observed humanity. Explanations cause more questions." She wasn't wrong. Still, I disentangled one hand awkwardly, because the wraps kept us connected, and reached for the door. "Ready?" I whispered. "No," she said instantly. I opened the door anyway. Lana stepped inside and froze mid-breath. Her gaze ping-ponged wildly between. Myra's violet glow, the coil still humming gently. The wraps binding our wrists, our ridiculously close proximity. "Oh," she said, voice cracking like fragile glass. "Oh wow, you guys are going through something." "It's not what it looks like," I tried. "It looks like a cross-cultural marriage ceremony," Lana said. Myra groaned. "Humans should not have guesses." Lana pointed at the coil. "Is that like a unity candle? But sci-fi?" "No," Myra declared. "Yes," I admitted. "Stop," Myra begged. But Lana was already smiling like a scientist discovering gossip as a renewable energy source. "So? Are you two official now?" Myra's glow pulsed violently. I opened my mouth. Then Myra blurted, "Yes." I blinked. Lana blinked. The coil hummed approvingly. And Myra stared at me with an expression that said, "I did not mean to say that out loud." But she also didn't take it back. The silence that followed was the kind that changed things. Again. Then Lana clapped her hands once. "Well then," she said brightly, "I'll just grab my phone and get out of the way of whatever honeymoon energy this is." She retrieved her phone from the couch, winked at us like she had just blessed our union, and slipped out the door. The moment it closed, Myra pressed both palms to her cheeks, glowing bright pink. I panicked, she whispered. "It's okay," I said softly. "No," she said, "because—" Was it wrong? I stepped closer. This time, she didn't step away. "Not wrong," I said. "Just unexpected." Her glow softened slow and warm like sunrise across her skin. And then, quietly, she asked, "Unexpected? Bad or unexpected? Good?" Asterisk, her question hung in the air like a live current, quiet, dangerous, hopeful. Unexpected. I began carefully, in the way a meteor shower is unexpected, or a surprise upgrade to first class, or finding out your roommate glows when she's flustered. Mira's throat markings shimmered in startled gold. "So, good?" I nodded. "Good." Her breath hitched small, but unmistakable, and the coil in her hands pulsed softly in agreement, like it could sense the shift between us. She looked down at it, then back at me, as if verifying that she wasn't misinterpreting a human idiom. "You do not feel obligated?" she asked quietly. "Due to the ritual or because Lana intruded?" "Myra," I said, stepping closer until our wrapped wrists aligned. "If I didn't want this, I would have backed out before phase 2, or before the ear scratch incident, or before you explained the whole ritual thing with a straight face." She blinked, slowly. That was not a straight face. I was deeply embarrassed. "Yeah," I said, smiling, "I know. I could tell by the way you kept quoting scientific terminology, like you were reading off a fire alarm manual." Her glow flickered shyly. "Humans are unpredictable." I wished to sound competent. "You did," I murmured, "just adorably so." That earned me another glow, this one a warm peach color I hadn't seen before. "Adorably," she repeated under her breath, tasting the word like a new fruit. "I do not mind being described that way by you." She looked down at our linked wrists again. The wraps had softened, no longer pulling us, but draping like silk. The coil had dimmed to a gentle warmth, its ceremonial purpose complete. "We may remove these now," she said, touching the edge of the fabric. "The synchronization is stable. The pairing temporary has been recognized by the kit." "Right," I said, but neither of us moved to untie them. Myra noticed, and her eyes widened with realization. "You are comfortable like this. And you're surprised," I said lightly. Her voice softened to a whisper. "Yes." We stood in our small apartment, bathed in soft alien light and the fading scent of jasmine-sweet ritual air. And something about the moment felt unbelievably delicate, like we were both standing on a line we hadn't meant to find, but couldn't step away from now. "So," I said, breaking the silence gently, "what exactly does being paired for 4 weeks mean?" Mira inhaled, her glow shifting to a thoughtful teal. "It means shared decision-making on domestic matters, mutual emotional transparency, periodic check-ins to ensure bond stability, sleeping proximity." My eyebrows shot up. "Sleeping proximity?" She winced. "Optional. Highly optional. Only required if one partner exhibits recurring physiological instability." "And you?" I asked softly. "Are you unstable?" Her glow pulsed once low, warm, honest. "I was," she whispered. "Less so now. But proximity still helps." A warmth spread through my chest that had nothing to do with alien coils. "Well," I murmured, "I'm not opposed to helping." Her breath caught. "You are certain?" "I'm certain." Silence wrapped around us again, comfortable this time. Finally, Mira lifted our joined hands, touching her forehead lightly to mine. A Queralin gesture I recognized instantly from cultural videos, a sign of gratitude. or affection. Or both. Thank you, she whispered, for not rejecting the bond, for not laughing at my biology, for choosing to stay. I swallowed the sudden, stupid ache in my throat. Mira, you're easy to stay for. Her glow flared bright, tender, overwhelmed. Before either of us could ruin the moment with further words, her holopad chimed from the kitchen counter. She stiffened. What is that alert? I checked the screen. A message blinked in bright letters. Pairing status confirmed. Phase 3 available upon Arikuusti. Myra froze. I froze. The coil hummed. Phase 3? I said weakly. Myra whispered, horrified. That one involves a ceremonial confession. A what? A confession. She swallowed hard. Of feelings. The silence between us sharpened, and everything suddenly felt a lot more dangerous than a biological mishap. She looked at me, wide-eyed, glowing softly. Do you wish to initiate it? She whispered. I opened my mouth, and the story wasn't nearly done. Asterisk. Myra's question hovered between us, like a trembling exclamation point, fragile, luminous, one breath away from detonating in meaning. Do you wish to initiate Phase 3? She repeated, voice barely audible, glow softening into a delicate lilac I had never seen before. A confession. Ritual. Feelings. My heart did that obnoxious thing where it tried to somersault into my throat. I began, and immediately regretted not having a fully drafted emotional speech ready. Myra, She lifted a hand, our wrists still wrapped together, and pressed her finger gently to my lips. You do not need to answer immediately, she whispered. Phase 3 is optional, unless both partners wish it. The kit will not activate unless you place your hand on mine and say the command phrase. I pulled back slightly, startled. Command phrase? Yes, she said gravely. Queralin pairing protocol. Phase 3 trigger phrases. I am ready to speak. I blinked. That's sweetly dramatic. It is traditional, she muttered, glowing faintly. And also incredibly nerve-wracking. I can see that. Her eyes lifted, shimmering with vulnerable honesty. You must understand Phase 3 is not like the others. It does not fix biology. It does not stabilize hormones. It is purely emotional. It is only for those who, she swallowed, wish to express attachment. My chest tightened. Mira, and, she added quickly, once spoken, it cannot be undone for the duration of the pairing period. That is why it is serious. That is why it is not required. Silence pressed softly around us. Her glow dimmed, not with fear, but with caution. I do not want you to feel pressured. Humans do not engage in structured confession rituals. It may be overwhelming. It is overwhelming, I admitted, but not in a bad way. Her eyes widened, hope flickering like candlelight. I took a breath. I want to be sure we're not rushing this because of the ritual. I don't want the kid to speak for us. Mira looked down, her markings softening into quiet gold. I understand. For a heartbeat, the moment stretched between us raw and real. Then, suddenly her wrist strap buzzed. A new holographic line appeared above the coil. Pairing. Suggestion. Joint rest period 80 ISD. We both stared. Is our relationship being managed by alien tech right now? I asked. Myra sighed, long suffering. Yes. It believes we are emotionally overheated. That's ridiculous, I said. Her glow pulsed, twice laughing without sound. Is it? I rubbed the back of my neck. Okay, maybe a little. She stepped closer just slightly, until our bound wrists brushed. Joint rest period, she murmured. It means shared quiet. Physical proximity. Calm and comfort. Not intimacy. Not pressure. Just existing together. That sounds nice, I admitted. Her eyes softened. Then may we? I nodded. We moved to the couch, slowly, awkwardly, as if the wraps were made of something far more symbolic than fabric. Myra settled beside me, carefully at first, then with a small sigh that melted the tension in her shoulders. Her glow faded to a soft gradient of blues and pale greens, peaceful, steady. She leaned her head gently against my shoulder. "Is this acceptable?" she asked. "More than acceptable," I murmured. A faint, pleased vibration traveled through her, almost a purr, though she tried to hide it. We sat together in that warm, quiet bubble, her breath soft against my neck, my fingers brushing her wrapped wrist. No tension, no ritual steps, just her and me, breathing in sync like something ancient and simple had finally found its rhythm. After a long moment, Myra spoke again, barely above a whisper. "You were correct earlier," she said, "about the kit not speaking for us." "Yeah?" She nodded against my shoulder. "Phase 3 is not something I will request lightly. But," her voice dropped, warm and fragile, "if you ever choose to speak the phrase, I want you to know that I would answer." My pulse jumped. "Myra," I breathed. "That means a lot." She lifted her head slightly, meeting my eyes, glow soft and gentle, like dawn warming frost. "I am simply being honest," she said, "which is new for me, and frightening, and also very pleasant." I smiled. "Yeah, I get that." She rested her head on me again, more certain this time. "We do not need phase 3 tonight," she murmured. "There is time. The ritual lasts weeks. Emotions have room to grow slowly." I exhaled, tension loosening in my chest. "Slow sounds good." She purred softly, unintentionally, adorably, and murmured, "Yes, slow is very human. I think I like that." We stayed like that, wrapped together in glowing calm, the coil dimming to sleep mode on the table. Everything felt warm, possible, balanced between what was and what could be. And yet, somewhere in the back of my mind, the phrase lingered like a spark waiting for tinder. "I am ready to speak, but not tonight. Not yet, because the story wasn't finished, not by a long shot." Asterisk, we stayed on the couch far longer than either of us intended, wrapped wrists resting between us, Myra's glow humming quietly, like a lantern content in its own warmth. The apartment had settled into a soft hush, broken only by the faint vibration of her breath and the comfortable rhythm of our heartbeats, finding some halfway compromise between species. It was peaceful, almost dangerously so, because peace gives the mind room to wander, and mine wandered right into trouble. "Myra," I said softly, after what felt like 20 minutes of companionable silence, "can I ask you something?" Her head shifted slightly against my shoulder, a gentle brush of cool hair and warm skin. "Yes, you may ask anything. In your culture, this pairing period we're in, is it only biological?" I hesitated. "Or is it also emotional?" Her glow paused mid-pulse. That alone was answer enough, but she lifted her head anyway, expression thoughtful and unbearably honest. "In my culture," she said slowly, "the pairing protocol begins biological, but often ends different." A soft violet glimmer spread down her throat. "Many who undertake it do not return unchanged." "Unchanged how?" Her fingers flexed where they were wrapped against mine. More attached, more open, more entangled. Emotion surged in her glow like a silent sunrise. "Do you think that will happen to us?" I asked. Her glow deepened, warm and shy. "It is already happening." Something unsteady fluttered inside. My chest part thrill, part panic. Part I dash can single quotes T dash believe dash. I dash like dash her dash this dash much. "You're sure?" "Yes." She tilted her head, hair shimmering softly. "You forget I can read your micro-expressions. You blush when you look at me. Your pupils dilate when I touch you. You lean toward me even when you think you are still." I choked, I do not. You absolutely do, she said with the factual calm of a scientist presenting peer-reviewed data. My face immediately warmed. Okay, fine. Maybe I do a little. She smiled soft, radiant, pleased, and leaned her forehead gently against mine again. I like it, she whispered, and then my heart did a thing I didn't approve of. It absolutely melted. I cleared my throat before I could do something impulsive like start Phase 3 by accident. Well, good. Because I like when you glow. And, lean and purr. You do that when you're happy, right? Myra froze. Her glow spiraled in a startled gold flare. She looked away, markings flickering wildly. It is involuntary. You purr when you're happy, I repeated, grinning. That's kind of adorable. She shot me a mortified look. Stop saying adorable. No, I said confidently. You're adorable. She covered her face with both hands. I cannot believe the pairing kit bound me to a human who uses emotional weapons. Emotional weapons? Compliments, she said gravely. You use them with malicious precision. I laughed, and Myra's glow snapped into soft rose pink, a color that felt suspiciously like affection. But then a different light suddenly blinked alive on the pairing coil. A new notification projected in shimmering letters. Emotional proximity levels rising phase. 3 Sujis dude. We both stared. Myra whispered, horrified. It can hear us. It's a piece of alien tech, I said. Of course, it can hear us. But it should not suggest Phase 3 simply because we are. She gestured vaguely between us, flustered, feeling things. Well, I said slowly, we are feeling things. She tightened her lips, glow flickering. Feelings are supposed to develop quietly, not be monitored by a ceremonial device. The coil chimed again, brighter this time. Phase 3 available. Say the command phrase to Bijan. Myra slapped a hand over her mouth. Do not say it. Do not let the ritual pressure you. I'm not pressured, I said honestly. She looked at me, startled. Not pressured, I repeated, softer this time. But I'm thinking. Her glow warmed hope, worry, anticipation, all tangled. We sat like that, quiet, close, rapt, and suspended in possibility, until she whispered, May I ask what you are thinking? I turned toward her slowly, deliberately. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly, waiting. I'm thinking, I said, leaning in just a fraction, and her breath caught. That Phase 3 is a big step. Mira nodded shakily. Yes. And we don't have to rush big steps, I continued. Relief softened her features, but then I added, quieter. But I'm also thinking that I meant everything I said tonight. Her glow exploded into radiant gold. She inhaled sharply, stunned. You? She whispered. You truly meant? Yes, I said. For 1 second, she just looked at me, like she was memorizing me, like she couldn't believe I existed, like the world was suddenly too small to contain everything between us. Then she whispered, Thank you. She leaned against me again closer. Then before, softer, certain, and the coil dimmed into a gentle, approving glow. The room fell quiet, warm, hopeful, balanced on the edge of something neither of us dared rush. But neither of us planned to avoid, because the story wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning arrived far too gently for the amount of emotional chaos we'd survived. I woke slowly warm, comfortable, cocooned in the soft quiet of our still dim apartment. The light filtering through the curtains had that gentle, early morning gold, the kind that makes the world feel like it's exhaling. I blinked, adjusting, and realized there was a faint glow next to me. Then realized the glow was breathing. Then realized the glow had an arm wrapped firmly around my waist. Myra. She was curled against me, deeply asleep, her forehead nestled against my shoulder, her wrist wrap still loosely draped between us like a ribbon that had forgotten its purpose, but stayed anyway. Her markings pulsed in slow waves, deep sea blue, then soft mint, then back again. Peace colors. Her sleeper was quiet, adorably quiet, and her leg was casually tangled with mine. My heart performed a BACKFLIP. Oh, this was dangerous. But it was also perfect. I froze not because I wanted to move, but because I didn't want to disturb whatever soft, beautiful glitch of fate had put us in this position. I didn't know when she'd fallen asleep against me. I didn't even remember falling asleep myself. But sometime between Phase 3 avoidance and heartfelt honesty, Mayra had simply leaned into me and stayed. And I let her. Of course I let her. Her grip tightened unconsciously, instinctively pulling me closer. Warmth flared across her markings. Like her sleeping self recognized something her conscious mind wasn't ready to say out loud yet. A soft mumble vibrated against my chest. Warm, she murmured. I almost melted straight through the couch. Good morning, I whispered, because whispering felt proper in the presence of this miracle. She inhaled, a deep, slow breath, and then froze. Her eyes opened. Her glow sputtered, violently red, then gold, then violently red again. Oh, stars. She jerked back so fast she nearly fell off the couch. I did not intend to, Myra, I said gently, sitting up. It's okay. It is objectively not okay, she declared, horrified. I fell asleep while touching you without seeking consent for prolonged proximity. That is a major breach of post-Phase 2 etiquette. I am mortified. You purr in your sleep, I said. Her glow exploded into neon mortification. IW8. And I liked it. Her jaw dropped. Her glow changed colors so rapidly, she looked like a panicked mood lamp. You liked it? Yeah, I said simply. A lot. She stared, stunned into silence. Then quietly, cautiously, she sat back beside me. May I ask something? Anything. She swallowed, markings dimming into a soft, hopeful green. Did you mind that I was close to you? Not at all. Her eyes widened. You did not? No, her glow flickered shyly. Even though I tangled my limbs with yours? Especially because of that. Her breath caught, pupils dilating. That is unexpectedly pleasing to hear. She tucked a strand of shimmering hair behind her ear, an uncharacteristically uncertain gesture. Does this mean, she began softly, that you are still comfortable remaining paired with me? Throughout the full duration? I reached forward, slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't so I touched her wrist lightly, reassuringly. Yes, I'm comfortable with it. Her glow brightened warm, golden, relieved in a way that made my chest throb. I am very glad, she whispered. We sat there in gentle morning silence for several long moments, just breathing together, her glow warming the air. The wrist wrap resting peacefully between us, like a quiet promise. Finally, she straightened, collecting herself with a small, determined hum. In that case, she said, smoothing her hair with ritual dignity that was entirely undone by the faint sleep ruffle at the crown. Phase 2 protocols continue as planned, which means shared morning routine, she said solemnly. Breakfast cooperation. Emotional stability check. And she hesitated, blush gleam blooming across her neck. Scent compatibility reinforcement. Scent what? She cleared her throat. A small, repeated moment of close contact. Not a kiss, simply proximity, to ensure the bond remains steady. I raised an eyebrow, smiling. So basically, we stand close together and breathe on each other? She glared with the dignity of a queen offended. It is more ceremonial than that. It is. I stepped closer, grinning. "Show me, then." Her glow softened, yielding, shy, warm, before she whispered, "If I show you, I will become flustered." "I know," I said gently. "That's okay." She looked up at me slowly, light shimmering along her jaw like sunrise breaking dot, and she stepped forward very close. Her breath mingled with mine again, and everything inside me fluttered in ways that absolutely shouldn't have been this. "Exhilarating. This," she whispered, "is scent reinforcement." Our noses nearly brushed. Her glow brightened dot, my pulse picked up. For one trembling moment, it felt like the world was leaning toward Phase 3 all on its own. But not yet, not quite. Instead, Mira breathed out softly and whispered, "This is enough. For now." But her eyes? Her eyes said the next step was coming. And soon. Asterisk, the rest of the morning passed in a strange, glowing haze, quiet rhythmic chores, accidental touches, lingering glances we both pretended not to notice. Myra moved through the apartment with a kind of focused gentleness, as if she was afraid to brush too hard against the air and accidentally trigger Phase 3. I wasn't helping. Every time she walked past, my heart behaved like it was auditioning for a percussion ensemble. By noon, we'd cooked breakfast together, Myra chopping fruit with precise, elegant movements while I tried and failed not to stare at the glowing curve of her neck. Afterward, we ended up reorganizing the cabinet because Myra claimed post-pairing domestic synergy, called for shared responsibility, suspected she just wanted to stand close to me, while handing me jars. At one point, our fingers touched over a jar of cinnamon. She inhaled sharply. I dropped the cinnamon entirely. It was ridiculous. It was wonderful. It was unmistakably spiraling towards something neither of us was naming yet. But it was the afternoon quiet, calm, warm sunlight spilling onto the carpet when everything shifted again. We sat on the living room floor, sorting through Mira's old storage crate from her homeworld. I expected strange tools or maybe weird alien snacks. I did not expect a small, crystalline orb the size of a plum that lit up the moment I touched. It glowed ruby. Mira froze. Her glow froze. Even the coil on the table, which wasn't even active, seemed to freeze. I said. "Did I just break something?" She swallowed. "No, you activated something. That's not comforting." She scooted closer, eyes wide with soft panic. "Human, that is a heart record." "A what now?" "A heart record," she repeated, as if the translation was perfectly obvious. "It is a device that stores emotional resonance. It responds only to a Queralin's bonded or potential partner." I pointed at myself. "Me?" "Yes." She leaned in, examining the orb with both awe and immediate fluster. "It recognized you." The orb glowed brighter. And then a soft sound filled the room. A hum. A warm, resonant hum that vibrated like longing made audio. My head tilted. "Is that you?" Myra's glow burst into bright rose. "It is a record of my emotional field from when I packed it. And it's responding to me." "Yes." And humming. "Yes," I blinked. "So, in your culture, this is basically..." "What? A diary? A mood crystal? A love note?" She went absolutely still, not blinking, not breathing, just glowing violet, wide-eyed, undone. "Essentially," she whispered. "Yes." The hum deepened, warm and full like the orb itself, approved of the proximity between us. "That's..." I exhaled. "Wow." Myra reached forward, trembling just a little as her fingers brushed the orb. The hum changed pitch, higher, sweeter. Her eyes softened, then darted nervously toward mine. "This should not be happening," she murmured. It only reacts if there is mutual resonance. Wait, I said. Mutual? Yes, a quiet beat. Then softer. You resonate too. I stared at the glowing orb between us, feeling something inside me loosen, open, warm. Mira, I said quietly, is this basically your homeworld's version of a compatibility test? Yes, she admitted. And we just passed? She made a tiny sound. Something between a gasp, a laugh, and a panicked purr. We did. The orb glowed brightly, as if agreeing. For several long seconds, neither of us breathed. Then Mira spoke, voice trembling with fear and hope all braided together. You do not have to complete phase 3. You do not have to confess anything. But this, she touched the orb delicately, means that what we feel is real, not ritual, not accidental. Her eyes lifted to mine, soft, glowing, unbearably vulnerable. It means we would have found each other, she whispered, even without the pairing protocol. My heart thud hard. I reached toward her, slowly offering, not assuming, and she leaned gently into my hand, closing her eyes as if the touch anchored her. Mira, I said softly, I think I'm starting to believe that. Her breath caught, her glow flared weakly. She whispered, trembling slightly, I want to say something. Something very close to phase 3. But I am scared. I surprised myself with how gently I spoke next. You can say anything to me. And it doesn't have to be the ritual. She swallowed, leaning closer. Then, may I say it in my way? Without the command phrase? Of course. She took my wrapped wrist in both hands. Her forehead pressed to mine. Her glow gorgeous, shimmering, trembling spilled across my skin. Very softly, she whispered, I am so glad it was you. Something inside me cracked. Beautifully, I almost said the command phrase, right? Then almost, but I held it because she wasn't. Ready, and because the story still had one last turn to make. Asterisk. The heart record hummed between us, low, warm, impossibly intimate, filling the quiet of the living room, with a sound that felt like it had weight, like it settled right behind my ribs and refused to leave. Myra's forehead still rested against mine, her glow trembling softly through a palette of overwhelmed colors. Her breath brushed my lips, warm and uneven. I am so glad it was you, she whispered again, as if daring the universe to contradict her. My entire chest tightened around the words. Mira. I breathed, but before I could say more, before could tilt into phase 3 on instinct alone, her holopad chimed loudly from the kitchen counter. We both jolted. The heart record flickered. Her glow snapped to startled yellow. Oh, for the love of... I muttered under my breath. Mira stiffened, and I swear I saw her consider hurling the holopad into another galaxy. It is always interruptions, she hissed. Always. This planet is cursed. Maybe it's just your luck, I offered weakly. My luck is excellent, she said indignantly. Then softer, except when it is not. She reluctantly pulled away and crossed the room to check the notification. Her markings pulsed rapidly: annoyance, embarrassment, and the unmistakable ache of being interrupted mid-emotional momentum. When she read the message, she froze. Mira? I asked, rising. What is it? She turned slowly, eyes wide with a kind of dread that made the apartment feel suddenly smaller. It is from my mother. Your mother? She knows, Mira whispered, voice faint. Knows. What? That I have engaged a pairing protocol. My stomach dropped. How? She tracks my cultural compliance logs. Mira grimaced. Very nosy. Very affectionate. Very dangerous. The holopad chimed again. Myra flinched. That is her follow-up, she said miserably. She wishes to initiate a family blessing call. A what now? A ceremonial greeting. She will demand to see my partner. Myra rubbed her temple frantically. And she will interrogate you? Interrogate? Yes, thoroughly, intensely, warmly, all at once. I blinked. Your mom wants to video call us because she found out we're paired? Yes, Myra said, looking deeply offended by the truth of it. And she wants to meet me? Yes. And ask me questions? Yes, I hesitated. Will these questions involve weird topics? She hesitated back. Define weird. Oh no. Myra ran both hands through her hair, which immediately flared into anxious silver. I am not prepared, she muttered. You are not prepared. The apartment is not prepared. Phase 3 is definitely not prepared. Wait, your mom knowing about the pairing? Does that mean she think we're emotionally involved? Myra supplied. Yes. Are we? The question escaped before I could stop it. Myra's glow flared hot gold, then melted into soft rose-flustered, hopeful undone. We are something. The heart record hummed again in agreement. The holopad chimed a third time. Incoming call, Matriarch Vel Sarimira. Let out a tiny mortified squeak. She will not stop calling, she whispered. She will assume you are avoiding her. That is a grave insult. So we have to answer. I said, yes, and I have to be on camera. Yes, and she will think we are romantically involved. Yes, and interrogate me. Yes, and possibly judge me. Yes, I took a deep breath. Myra mirrored it. Okay, I said finally. Then let's do this. Her glow flickered with stunned relief. You will join the call? Of course I will. Why? She whispered. Because I'm paired with you, I said simply. And because I meant what I said last night. Her breath caught. Her glow soft, warm, and dangerously beautiful. Thank you, she whispered. She swallowed, tapped the hollow pad, and her mother's holographic face appeared above the counter. A regal, glowing, absolutely terrifying Queralin woman looked right at us. Oh, she said in a rich, delighted tone. You must be the human my daughter is falling for. Myra made a noise I can only describe as a glowing implosion. I stared, speechless. The heart record pulsed between us. And phase 3 suddenly didn't feel so far away.